Back, everybody. So we are now going to move directly on to our second challenge, and that is transparency in public procurement, something that is hugely important because we know that public procurement makes up a vast amount of the European economy. And now to tell us a bit about why this challenge is so important, we are going to hear from Reet Sommer from the European Parliament's Data Management Document Production. Reet, thank you very much for joining us. I'm just going to hand over the floor to you to tell us all about this challenge.
Thank you very much, and hello. I am now not sure, I didn't check with the technical team if they're able to show and share my slides.
Yes, I think we can
do
that
for you. But I think I'll just start speaking. So at this year's edition of the Datathon, I have the honor to introduce challenge number 2 and speak about the importance of transparency in the EU public procurement. So for many years, public procurement has been treated as something that needs to be done and not seen as something of strategic value. However, this is slowly changing, and we can be sure that open data and public procurement is clearly here to stay. By applying the open data principles in EU public procurement, we are able to generate insights for decision and policy making, grow trust in the EU institutions, boost the digital transformation of procurement, and of course, increase transparency and integrity. I mentioned transparency last, but arguably it's the most important. Can be said for open data and transparency. Data is among the most powerful tools which transparency can have by its side. In other words, open data is a loyal friend of transparency, and as every good friend, data doesn't lie, right? Well, yes, you can say that it depends on the quality of the data, and I will agree with you. But still, what smart organizations and people nowadays do is to support their choices with fact-based information, with numbers, with data. So to understand how important the topic of public procurement is, and therefore how important the task of the 3 teams in this challenge is, we should take a look at some numbers. And I see that you probably don't see the slide, so it will be now a couple of numbers. So every year, public authorities in the EU spend around 14% of GDP on public procurement, amounting to more than 1.9 trillion euros. A study from 2019 on the benefits of open data to public procurement shows that in the EU, open data on public procurement positively affects competition, increasing the number of bids per tender by 12%, reducing prices by 8%, and improving the likelihood of success of new vendors by 8.7 percentage points. An example of positive development on EU level is TED, the Tenders Electronic Daily. It's an online portal for public procurement notices across the EU. Public buyers use TED to publish their notices using e-forms, an EU legislative open standard for publishing public procurement data, established in 2019. And each year, TED publishes around 676,000 procurement notices, including 258,000 calls for tenders, which are worth approximately 670 billion euros. Every day from Monday to Friday, about 2,600 public procurement notices are published there. Today, TED publishes the current standard forms. Starting from November, it will publish notices complying with the current TED schema forms, but also notices complying with a new generation of standard forms for public procurement, so-called e-forms. And eventually, from October 2023, the use of e-forms will be mandatory. This step will change not only the way contracting authorities, buyers, send notices for publication, but also how companies and citizens reuse that data. In the early days of open contracting, public authorities used to make public procurement information available in formats that are very difficult to process, such as PDFs. However, now the new EU award notices are in tabular and machine-readable files. So the challenge of to deal with nothing but a bunch of PDFs is also very familiar to my own team and something that we have been working to improve at the European Parliament. Soon, the EP will launch its open data portal that will provide information about the legislative process and the maps in an open machine-readable format. And I hope that for the next edition of the Datathon, the participants will be able to choose datasets from our catalogue. Now, let us go to the projects of the finalist teams and see what their contribution to the transparency in the public procurement challenge will be. Thank you and good luck to all teams.
Thank you very much, Reet, and really setting out those facts and figures for us so we know how important the work of these teams is. And with that, we are going straight to the teams who are participating in the Transparency in Public Procurement Challenge. Our first team is Emma. Let's have a look at the video to see what they've been working on.
Hi, my name is Mark and I manage the team EMA, which is running the EU 2022 Datathon to help improve transparency in public procurements. Our team is made up of me, Marco, Marcus, Mark with a K, and even a cameraman. And that up there is our cat, Ima, who is watching everything and meows every time something is wrong. Meow! And it is exactly what the application EMA is about. Watching all European Union public procurements and detecting automatically fraud and other issues. For that, EMA uses open data from Data Europa and enrich it with other sources. EMA allows everybody to search and easily visualize all interaction of public procurement actors, with a highlighting of suspicions of fraud. So yeah, EMA monitors malicious activities.
Sorry, let's talk about transparency and transparency in public procurement. Okay, sorry, little mismanage of things. Let's talk about transparency and transparency in public procurement. If we really want to call our democracies democracy, we need to maintain, to reinforce, to build one of the core pillars of a democracy, which is transparency. In the age of informations that we live on, we have access to the data we more easily, and the spreading of informations